The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Sure sounds on.
Step outside of your comfort zone. See the world with a whole new perspective. Join us and experience the unexplained on the Paranormal View.
And welcome everybody right here to the Paranormal View on the Paranormal Radio Network. And I know it's not. I'm trying to find where it's at. Oh, here it is, down here.
Para-X Radio Network.
Yeah.
It's on paraxradionetwork.com. Go to the chat room.
There you go. Yes, hurry so you can catch out all the good stuff tonight. And I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this one more time. I'm just going to play the kind of like the intro to make sure you guys are able to hear it now. So I will do that real quick and...
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
So were you able to hear that now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, well, good then. I got it fixed. I was trying to do 5 things at one time and still couldn't find it. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to be with us tonight. Got a good chat room going on here and lots of people coming in. And I want to thank those for taking time to be with us tonight. And those listening from around the world, we appreciate each and every one of you. If you are listening from somewhere else around the world and you want to come over, it's para-x.com. Click on the live chat button up at the top or chat now button, and you'll be in with all these wonderful people, and you'll be able to interact with them and with us and ask questions. But if you have a question somewhere down the line and you don't want to come into the chat room, you can still ask a question by sending it to the paranormalview@gmail.com. And just put attention question. We will get those answered for you. Tonight, we're just kind of laid back and going to have a good show. We got somebody special with us tonight, and it's Jeff's not going to be with us tonight. He is filming, I believe. And we have with us, though, Barbara Duncan.
Yep, I'm here.
And we have a special guest with us tonight, and she has her own show on Thursday nights, Marla Brooks, and her show is called the Stirring the Cauldron.
Mm-hmm. Hello.
Yeah, she gets burned every now and then.
Well, it splatters every occasionally, you know. You get that fire up too high, and what do you expect?
Hot, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, tonight, though, we're going to be just talking a little bit about legends and different things like that. In California, we got a lot of stuff to cover because Marla's got some, Barbara's got some, I got some, and if you do have questions tonight, feel free to jump right in and start talking and ask, because we got all kinds of good stuff. If you like things about ghosts and things that people might be looking for, like lost gold or something, and you want to go look for it, this is the place to be so you can hear about it tonight. So, with that, I got one.
Not unless there's a map.
A map? Well, we're pretty close with the map. I thought I had something else, but I don't see it right now.
There's not a map. I don't want to trolling around the desert.
Well,
There's quite a bit of gold out there, though.
Yes, there is.
And,
Somebody said that the dam that broke up just north of Sacramento, the spillway that was there, Oroville spillway, it had a lot of sediment in it that had gold particles. So people were finding gold
Wow.
going down that way.
Huh. Well, I remember going to Knott's Berry Farm as a kid, and they had, I don't know if they still do it, but they had panning for gold in this little, like a little slough, and, you know, they'd give you this little tiny vial of gold. It was kind of fun.
Aww.
They had the miners there and everything, yeah, and the dishes, and you got to pick it out and bring home your own gold. Don't know where they got all that, but it could have been pyrite for all we know, but
More than
still.
likely.
Yeah, but it was kind of cool.
Well, they had,
Johnstown and Sutter's Creek is in the valley, not too far away. And they do have gold panning classes out there that you can attend.
Nice.
Yeah,
well, have
be
you ever been
interesting.
out looking for it?
not yet. That's one thing I always wanted to do was learn to pan for gold.
Well,
There's your bucket list.
you know, little
Yep.
little creeks. You go a lot of them different places where gold had been found. I'm sure that you can find little nuggets and stuff here and there.
As long as it's not on private property, you're good.
Yeah. So
I like it.
yeah, there's I come across stuff where people had had treasures or money that they'd stolen or something, and they hid it, and then they got caught, killed, or something like that, and nobody has been able to find where they had the money at. So there's lots of those with stories and things going on there.
Yeah, we've got one of those. Oh God, I forgot. Not far from here, in Hollywood, in the foothills or something. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was Pancho Villa that was here, and he buried a whole bunch of stuff. And they're still looking for it. But although they can't really now because it's all built up and stuff. But they kind of know where it is, but nobody ever found it. Right in the backyard.
There's a lot of caves down there.
Yeah, we do. We've got the Bronson Caves, which was, well, they're in all these movies, Bronson Caves. And I think also what Bronson Caves is where the Batmobile came out of on Batman.
No way, really?
Yeah, I'm
That's
pretty
where
sure it was
that was
cool.
his hideout that went to his house.
Well, supposedly, yeah.
Huh.
They dragged that car into that cave and they shushed it out for one take, and they used it all the time. But, yeah, I mean, Bronson Caves are here, and we have all, where the Mansons up at Spawn Ranch, there's a lot of places that have caves, and so many places out here where they shot Westerns back in the 50s and 60s. Not all of those are built up into anything. There's still a lot of that land there, and there's a lot of caves there, so I imagine there's a whole lot of treasure, and we just,
See, that's
even haven't found it or don't know exactly where it is.
That's where I'd like to go. Get me a horse and go out there where they shot all them cowboy movies at.
Well, you're going to have to come west.
I know that. I'm going to get on that train soon as I get a ticket.
There you go. And then,
The
like
one
I
that
think
only
I was
takes like
telling,
6 hours or something.
Like what?
The one that like takes only 6 hours or something like that. That's what.
Oh, that
was saying.
train.
Yeah, that train.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember that train. The train to nowhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, because you were going to come out and we're going to go to Calico, Old Calico, the ghost town.
Oh yeah, that's where we was going to go. That's what
Yeah.
we was going to do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got one here. Marla, apparently she was a co-founder of it or something like that.
Uh-oh.
Long ago during the late 1950s, that's what somebody was saying about you. So my family lived in a small town called Seaville, located some 40 miles west of Sequoia National Park in California. The town had been booming with a railroad running through it, but had long since burned down, leaving only small shacks for homies. For I suppose it's homeless.
I like homies. Yeah, okay.
Homies for homes, shacks for homes. That's what it was. We were hardworking migrant family and settled in Seaville to pick cotton and grapes. Soon after we arrived, we were told by several local families that in addition to the few migrant families living in the shack homes, Seville was also called home to several local witches. And this is where Marla came in, and according to our neighbors, these Las Brujas, Brujas,
Brujas, that's the Spanish word for witch.
would appear on the first full moon of the month to fight with each other to see who had the most power. On one night of the first full moon, we could hear our neighbors, the vecinos, outside talking about the witches. Soon we gathered up and joined them out of doors, fully anticipating to see some ugly women fighting. We waited and watched late into the night without seeing anything, when suddenly 2 balls of fire suddenly appeared high in the air. Standing between my mother's legs, I watched in awe as the 2 burning flames bounced back and forth across the sky, often colliding with each other. We were told by the neighbors that the blazing orbs would continue to do battle until one of the witches would exhaust its power and fall from the sky. I became frightened and prayed for the witches would keep their distance. Finally, when my fear overwhelmed me, I begged my mother to take me inside the house, not staying to watch the dying ember fall from the night above. I have never since experienced this incident again, but I have been told that practice continues to exist in places that witches make their home.
Interesting.
And that is...
Or there's lightning out there and it's going from mountain to mountain.
Yeah. But I got that when you said, till the one witch fell from the sky. It reminded me of Harry Potter during the Quidditch match when the Dementors scared him and he fell off his broom. Yeah, broke his arm, poor baby.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That's what I thought. Well, maybe we're a little bit more civil now. I don't know. Maybe not.
Probably.
Maybe,
I don't know. I've never made one mad, so I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
All
I've learned not to make them mad.
right. Well, don't try it tonight either. Just saying. Just a little warning.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being warned already. That's...
Well, why not? Hey. It's the kind thing to do. Well, I found something out about Alcatraz that I didn't know.
Oh, really?
I did, yeah. They say it's extremely haunted. There are ghosts of prisoners and ghostly security guards, and it's full of spooky rooms, and like the medical ward, they creak and they groan, and perfect haunted prison. And there's a room called the Hole in the depths of the prison that was used for solitary confinement, and it's the source of one pretty unnerving legend, they say. According to legend, sometime in the 1940s, a man was put down there and throughout the night screamed to the guards about a demonic creature with glowing eyes in the cell that was trying to kill him. And, of course, the guards ignored this as an excuse to get out. And when they opened the cell in the morning, they found the man strangled to death, and no one knows exactly how he died.
And, it's interesting because I know somebody who used to be a docent out there.
Mm-hmm.
And knew a lot of the other docents as well. And I told him that story.
Uh-huh.
And he says he never heard it before.
Really?
And it could be because they're told not to tell ghost stories. They're told not to to perpetuate it. So it's possible that it did happen because there was a tourist out here who took a photograph. They're allowed to go in that area and take photographs. And they're allowed to go in, shut the door, etc. Right. She took a photograph of the window that going into that area. And there's this really eerie looking figure in the glass where you wouldn't be able to see anything.
Right. Yeah. I don't discard that. I think it's very possible.
Yeah. There's lots of ghost stories out there.
Why wouldn't a demon live in a prison like that? I mean, honestly, they thrive on fear. So, and there's plenty of fear in a prison. So, yeah, that would be a good breeding ground for one. Yeah.
And look at the place. Yeah, it breeds that sort of yeah, depression. It's really cold out there. It's really cold out there.
I bet.
Yeah.
Lots of breeze blowing and stuff.
Oh, yeah, and the fog.
Mm-hmm. That too.
And it comes in right from the gate, and it's right in line with the Golden Gate Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that.
Right.
He was telling me a story of an ex-guard, who was out there doing a interview for a TV show of some sort. And he was just sort of sitting in the cafeteria, waiting for, the interview to start or whatever. So he's looking at the Golden Gate, nice, calm down sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Gets tapped on the shoulder and turns around, and there's nobody there.
Really? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's lots of stories of that, because a lot of the guards, or a lot of the docents also not only were guards, but they were ex-cons.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And, yeah,
That's interesting.
And, they'd be doing tours and talking to people. And one of the ex-cons, who was a docent, was in C Block, I believe. Looked down the C Block area, and there was a gentleman standing there that he knew in prison garb.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy waved, and he waved back, and then he remembers, "Oh, you're dead."
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
So, that happens there.
Was C Block, is that the block that Capone was in?
No, he was in a different sort of like more ornate part of the jail.
Mm-hmm.
When he was there, because he was in the medical ward quite a bit, because of course he had syphilis.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
A happy little place.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So, Marla, how long are you from California? Or
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you've lived there then forever.
That's,
What, 100, 200 years?
something like that. Yep.
11 to 11. Yeah.
So
11, yeah.
when you've been out on investigations before, have you ever been touched?
Yes. I was in the old fire station, the old Hollywood fire station. They turned it into a museum and built a brand new one next door. But we were walking, the whole group was walking up the stairs, and I was dawdling, and I was behind everybody else, and, they're, a few feet ahead of me, and somebody smacked me in the butt.
Really?
Yes. Well, it was a fire station. Firemen. You know how that goes.
What, did you say thank you, or?
No, not exactly. I had a WTF moment, when I realized there wasn't anybody there. And then I thought, oh, yeah, okay, well, I've dated a fireman before. I know about this now. I figured it out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I felt when we was doing the Preble County Historical Society one night, it was just me and Mitzi there, and we was upstairs sitting on the floor just asking questions, and all of a sudden I felt a little hand right on my back, and we think it was one of the younger kids that was up there, just lightly touched me. And I said, oh, now that felt neat.
Mm-hmm. It does. I mean, weird things when they happen, and there's no reason for it. All right, so as you guys were talking about, when I got through talking about the demons, now we all know that I live with one, four-legged. His name is T. But as you guys are talking, he's running back and forth and everything. I'm not paying attention to him. And all of a sudden, somebody hit the thing on the side of your desk chair that makes it go down.
Uh-huh.
I heard it clunk and the chair moved down. And I looked down to see T, because he does that sometimes. He was across the room.
You don't think it scared him when he got across the room that quick?
No, he's fast, but not that fast.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, let's talk about something else.
Maybe that's why he's been running around all day.
That could be.
Playing with something else that's
Going
there?
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, there could very well be something. I mean, there's always something in this house, but
Yeah.
back here where I am, it's not usually as prevalent as in the main house.
So there is stuff in the main house. I remember you telling us
All
about
the
some of the
time,
things that
yeah.
happens up there.
Yeah, and you know what? Today's a rainy day too, so that kind of brings them
Ramps
out.
it up a little bit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I got one. Have you ever heard of the drum barracks in California?
Yeah. Yeah, what's his name? Richard Sennett talks about that all the time. He goes up there. It's a little bit north of here.
Okay.
It's a good story.
It says, though many do not realize that California was involved in the Civil War, the drum barracks played an important part in the conflict. Originally, the drum barracks 5-company post was established in January 1862 and called Camp San Pedro. In December 1863, the post's name was changed to the Camp Drum in honor of Lieutenant Colonel Richard Drum, Assistant Adjutant General of the Department of California. It soon took on the name of the Drum Barracks. At the time, the government was unsure as to whether California would declare itself for the North or for the South, as the state was about equally divided in its sympathies. In particular, the southern half of the state, especially around Los Angeles, were pro-secession, leading the government to determine it needed a presence in the area. The post was built ostensibly to have his troops fight the Indians, but there weren't any Indians to fight in the area. Spending more than $1 million to build the post, an extremely large amount at that time. The buildings, completed in 1863, were very elegant, and area locals were very impressed. Situated on 60 acres of land with an additional 37 acres located near the harbor, the post was built to house some 500 soldiers and stables for up to 300 horses. Situated around a large central parade ground were the hospital, barracks, and laundry's quarters. The post quickly became the main staging and training and supply base for military operations in the Southwest. Throughout the Civil War, some 17,000 Californians came through the barracks on their way back east to fight for the Union. On April 13, 1862, Colonel James Henry Carrollton led some 2,300 California volunteers from California through Arizona and New Mexico to the Rio Grande Valley, which was being invaded by Confederate Army forces from Texas. It was the longest and most difficult march of the Civil War. In the end, the troops from California secured the territory, which is now Arizona and New Mexico, for the Union. After the Civil War was won by the Union, Camp Drum continued to maintain a presence with its soldiers sent to fight in the Southwest during the Indian Wars. The post was finally decommissioned in November 1871, but the hospital, which was then considered as the best equipped medical facility west of the Mississippi River, continued to serve wounded soldiers for another 2 years. After the hospital closed, the land reverted back to the original owner, and the buildings were auctioned off for a total of $6,357. They didn't get very much back for that million, did they? Though some were moved, others stayed in place, including the junior officers' quarters, which throughout the years was used as a high school, a private residence, and a boarding house. By the early 1960s, the only buildings left were the powder magazine and the junior officers' quarters, which was slated to be razed in 1962. However, through the efforts of community groups, it was saved. In 1987, the restored buildings were opened to the public as the Drum Barracks Civil War Museum. The building, located in Wilmington, California, a district of the city of Los Angeles near the Port of Los Angeles, is the only major American Civil War landmark in Southern California. Today, the museum commemorates California's contribution to the Civil War and holds a number of reenactments and events throughout the year. The old powder magazine also still stands, located at the corner of Opp and Eubank Streets. In the history of the drum barracks, if the history of the drum barracks is not exciting enough, the legend has it that the old building is the site of repeated paranormal activity. Over the years, museum staff and visitors have often reported hearing unexplainable noises and sounds of chains being dragged and footsteps throughout the building when no one is present. Now, if no one's present, how can anybody hear it?
That's where you figure the legends from the other legends. When you find that little loophole in the story.
So more reports claim to have seen a woman who they called Marla. Oh, I'm sorry, Maria.
Close, but no cigar.
Often making an appearance in a hoop skirt and smelling strongly of lavender and violet perfume. Others claim to have seen the apparition of a man dressed in the 1800s officer uniform who evidently smokes a pipe, as the scent of pipe smoke is often smelled throughout the museum. The most active room is the model room, where many have encountered the tobacco and perfume odors, as well as hearing items being moved around and footsteps approaching them from behind. The drum barracks hauntings have been featured in the series Most Haunted and Unsolved Mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So that might be a neat place to go investigate, or at least go through and check it out anyway.
Well, San Pedro's kind of nice anyway. We have a big bridge there. Not almost as big as the Golden Gate, but we have our own bridge, and it's called the Vincent Thomas Bridge, and it was named after Vincent Thomas, and I don't remember who he was. But it spans, because San Pedro's kind of like a harbor city and a port. And so here's this really, really neat bridge. It's not small, but San Pedro's kind of fun.
Wow.
Kind of nice.
Very interesting, though. There's a lot of stuff.
I hadn't heard of that one.
Oh, you haven't heard of that one?
No, the drum. Yeah, but that's Southern California, so I really, big state.
Right, it's a big state.
It is, yeah. Well, I've got one for up north that you might have known about. Let me see, where was it? Oh, I'm just looking away. All right. This thing says that there are plenty of ghost stories in the San Francisco Bay Area, and haunted buildings are pretty much everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That said, there's one ghostly tale that's been around for over a century, and it's rather tragic. The story goes that a woman pushing her baby stroller near the Stowe Lake in the Golden Gate Park sat down to take a rest. Mm-hmm. And another woman sat beside her, and they had a nice, relaxing chat. Well, they were so engrossed that they didn't notice that the stroller rolled away and into the lake. After a while, the lady got up to leave and saw the stroller was missing, and she raced around the park asking everyone, where have you seen my baby? Have you seen my baby? Whatever. And at long last, there was no other place to check but the lake. So she waded in, all the way under the water. She was looking for her child, and she never resurfaced. And there's a statue in her honor by the lake, and it says that you can summon her by using the statue.
Really?
But she might kill you if you do so. So summon at your own risk.
So has anyone summoned her and got killed and then told people that happened?
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A little hard to tell people if you're dead.
Yeah. So,
well, not unless you're good at EVP.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's an island in the middle of Stowe Lake that's supposedly haunted as well. Mm-hmm. And probably by that lady running around looking for her baby. Mm-hmm. There's several stories about ghosts around Stowe Lake and the fields out there. Which, it's foggy out there. Mm-hmm. It's really foggy. So you can just sort of see how when the mists come in, that people think that there's a lot of hauntings happening in there.
I hate fog, and we don't get it very much down here. We really don't. But when we do, I think I've read too much Stephen King. And when we get fog, if I go outside And I've tried a couple of times just to prove that I wasn't as cowardly as I thought I was because of the fog. I just kept imagining somebody jumping out from the fog, whether it be alive or dead. I didn't care. If you can't see in front of your face, I'm sure somebody's going to grab you. So that's why fog kind of freaks me out.
You see, now I take the different cinematic fog approach, and that is the end of Casablanca.
Mm-hmm.
Where they walk into the fog, and it's nice. It's a friendship.
Happily ever after. Yeah.
Going into the fog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I've got these disembodied hands coming out of it, ready to throttle me, and
there's Bolinas up here, and for the life of me, can't remember the name of the town now, where they shot The Fog with Adrienne Barbeau.
Okay.
They shot The Fog?
The movie.
Oh,
I was wondering how many times did they have to shoot it to kill it?
Yeah.
Well, there's a group of people out there that think that you can bomb a hurricane and have it stop. So
yeah. There's those kind of people.
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody tried to shoot fog to stop it.
Or spray it with something freeze zoned where it just falls down to the ground then.
Yeah.
I have to address something Kat just wrote in chat. I'm fine in the dark. I can make my way to the bathroom fine. I can't see. Well, I kind of can, and I kind of feel things. But now you're going to make me think about that when I get up at 3 in the morning. Thank you, Kat.
Yeah, I don't see too good in the dark either. I can't see anything really, and
dark. Yeah.
I have to be real careful when I get up to go to the bathroom, because if there's something that's out of place or not just right, or I'm in the wrong place and try to walk, I'm going to kick something and break my toe and all that good stuff. So I have night lights on, so it helps a little bit and gives me a little bit of light. But yeah, I have to be real careful. I run into things very easily.
Well, it's very surreal when you wear glasses, and in the middle of the night, if you have to get up, you don't grab them to walk to the bathroom. I mean, I think we all kind of know how to feel our way there, but you see everything so differently. Things are, it's way different than when you can actually see. So it makes things a little creepier, and I don't have night lights. I just kind of feel my way. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But now I have to think twice.
Up here, there's a lot of fog. And it's just sort of, you look at it from the standpoint of Dashiell Hammett movies and Casablanca and that sort of thing. And it's actually very pleasant. But I guess I don't think Los Angeles is known for its fog very much.
No, I mean, it does happen. Yeah, I mean, we do get it. But I don't know, I've always been afraid of, all right, here's another thing. Let's talk about fears for a minute. And I'm pretty much over it, but not completely. Shower curtains. You can't see what's on the other side of them when they're closed.
Okay.
And so, so I will expect, if I go I use the bathroom in the house. One of the bathrooms in the house has a shower curtain, and it's always shut. And the potty is like right there, right next to it, right? So sometimes I'll be minding my own business and think out of the corner of my eye, I see it move, and it's not very conducive to
it don't help you go a lot faster.
Well, if it really moved, it might, but I'm always expecting something to jump out. Like when we went to the Roosevelt Hotel and did that investigation, that bathroom there was completely horrible. It was very long. It ran the length of the room because you'd walk in, it had like 2 doors, one at one end and one at the other, and it was just long and narrow. And you walked in the one door, and there was the toilet all by itself. And then you had to walk a little farther down, and then there was this tub with the shower curtain. And then farther down was something else. I don't know. It was the weirdest thing, but nobody, and there were a lot of really nice people that were very used to doing investigations that would not go in the bathroom alone. The whole night, everybody, when they had to go, they went in tandem. Even Scott Michaels. Scott Michaels made me stand in front of the door and with my back to him because even he didn't want to go by himself.
The bathroom, was that scary?
Yes, it was. It was horrible. Nobody wanted to go in there. That's the place where they saw the headless guy or not the headless guy, but the guy with his throat slit.
Oh, well, tell us about that to start with. No, that's background to why everybody's afraid in there.
Well, they shouldn't be afraid of the bathroom because nothing happened in there. But as the story goes, there was a man who, I guess it might have been on the property before the hotel was built, but for some reason he slit his throat or somebody slit it for him. And he appears in this particular room, and this is a cabana room. It's not part of the main hotel. It's a separate part. It's over by the pool, and there's 2 stories worth of cabana rooms. And so I heard about it through Scott Michaels, who heard about it through somebody that worked there, and they never told anybody about this. They never told people coming into the hotel about this. I mean, there's a thing about Montgomery Clift playing his trumpet up on the 8th floor in the hotel, and there's a lot of Marilyn Monroe and her mirror. Everybody knows about that. And then in the Blossom Room where the first Academy Awards took place, that's supposedly haunted too. So that everybody knew that, but nobody knew about the guy. And so they found out because one day the maid was in the room cleaning up, and all of a sudden the apparition appeared to her. And here's this man with his throat cut, and she could only see him from the waist up, and blood running down his shirt and everything. I mean, it's pretty grisly. So she got scared to death, and she ran out of the room. And the hotel has surveillance cameras, and they saw her running out of that room, and the minute she got out of the room, she crumbled in a heap. And then when she came to, she told the story of why she left. And from that day on, for a very long time, the maids wouldn't even go in and clean the room. They had to go in tandem, too. And also, the people at the hotel were instructed not to tell that to any guest that perhaps was going to rent that room. But it didn't help because they had a lot of people that were in that room that would get up at 3 a.m. and go down to the desk and say they were checking out.
Because they'd seen it.
They didn't say why. They said it was just people kept checking out. So when I heard about that, I got together a whole lot of people. I got Scott Michaels. I got the lady that knew about it, and she was a medium. So she was there. I got Kenny Kingston there. So he was like, the big shot of the group. He was the one that could see dead people really well. And there were several other people there. And every one of them that walked into that bathroom got creeped out. Now, I might have gotten creeped out because the tub had a closed shower curtain around it. So every time I had to walk in there, I walked really, really fast.
Well, why didn't you just open the curtain up before you used the bathroom?
Well, because it wasn't where the toilet was anyway. I mean, it was down the hall. It was like a mausoleum in there. It was like all marble, and it was just long and gray, and it was yucky. So I didn't. When I went in to use it, I was where the commode was, which wasn't where the tub was. So, but a couple of times I had to walk through, and that's when it freaked me out. But the only person that went to the bathroom by themselves that night was Kenny Kingston. I guess he was used to stuff like that. And so it was bad. So that's why we were all there, and that's why everybody went to the bathroom. And a lot of them, I mean, we told them that this guy showed up in the bedroom, not in the bathroom. There was no reason for anybody to be frightened there. But everybody felt something in there, and they didn't like it. So,
well, is there a history of a guy being killed in that one particular room?
Not in that particular room, no. But apparently they said this guy who showed up, they described him, the woman did, and he looked Hispanic and stuff. And, that part of Hollywood was a lot of rancheros way back when. It was part of Mexico. And so it makes good sense that, things that was the wild, wild west. And he could have, been in a fight or whatever, but he keeps popping up. And about midnight, people started clearing out, but Ginny and I had rented the room for the night. We were going to stay all night, and we were hoping somebody else would stay with us, but nobody did. Scott Michaels had to go feed his dog. He could have come back. He didn't. Everybody kind of left us. And I'm not a chicken, but that room, the bedroom, felt really horrible. And so I told Ginny, I said, I'm not going in there to sleep. I'm going to sleep here in the living room on the couch. And I put all my stuff by the front door in case we had to run out.
You had to go quick.
Just had to be. And I told Ginny, I said, look, I'm staying up all night, got the TV on. If I need to go to the bathroom, you're coming with me. If you fall asleep and somebody comes running out of there that has their throat slit and you don't wake up when I call you the first time, I'm leaving you behind. Wow. It didn't help. She still slept.
Really? Like nothing happened.
Yeah, she just fell asleep. She's a good sleeper, and I'm up there all night with my eyes really big, waiting for something to come through. Because there was a fireplace in there that was shared between the living room and the bedroom, and it wasn't lit because it was summer. But I kept imagining something was going to come out of the fireplace.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, imagination runs really wild. But
did you run recorders?
We did. People got EVPs. And stuff. I didn't catch anything. I never do. It's really bad. Kenny Kingston did a seance while we were there. And it was interesting because, Kenny was very old school in the way he did things, which was kind of nice. You start out singing, like songs like Bringing in the Sheaves or something like that. And it was really a lot of fun. But he was picking up he wasn't picking up that guy with the slit throat or anything. He was picking up things that happened more recent than that. And he was sure that not long ago there was somebody that overdosed in that room. He was picking that up. And then it was really interesting because when Kenny went into trance and stuff during seances, his features would change. And his voice would change. And I always kind of, at first, when he used to invite me to seances, I know, Kenny, if you're gonna channel like that, I don't want to see that. But finally, he was doing it there, and it was fine. But all of a sudden, his voice got really familiar, and it was very female. And she started talking about, I lived at the hotel for many years, and this and that. And so Kenny's partner, Valerie, she said, well, who are you? And oh my God, now I don't remember the woman's name, but she was a lady on I Love Lucy that played the upstairs neighbor, Mrs. Trumbull.
Really?
And she had lived at the hotel for a number of years, and she came through.
Patsy can probably tell you who it is.
Yeah, it was on the tip of my tongue, but whatever. So Mrs. Trumbull came through, and I swear, at first I kept looking at Kenny's face, and it was getting more and more feminine, but like an old lady feminine. And then the voice was hers. And I'm like, holy cow, this is really cool. And why she came through, people are saying, well, she didn't have any connection with the room because she was, talking about, just living at the hotel. But spirit will come through if they have a channel to come through, and if they have something to say, so it wasn't unusual that she came through. Thank God the guy that overdosed didn't. I would have liked it if the guy with his throat cut came through.
Yeah.
That would have been an interesting story, but
Yeah,
that cabana room, they still keep it quiet. And when we got there, when Ginny and I got there to check in, went up to the front desk, and the guy, can I help you? And I said, yeah, we're checking into room, blah, 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 whatever it was, 2 something. And he made a face. And so I'm playing stupid, and I said, something wrong with the room? And he said, no. And he started kind of sputtering a little bit. He goes, no, it's quite a nice room, and, you'll like the room and everything. I said, no, spill it. And he says, no, really, there's nothing wrong with it. So I knew the story. So I took my finger, you know how you put it around your neck and you go like that, like you're having a throat cut. And that's all I did. And his eyes got really wide and he goes, you know. I said, yeah. And he says, you're spending the night? And I said, yeah. He said, well, good luck. And then
Good luck.
he was telling us the stories about the people that were checking out in the middle of the night and stuff.
Oh.
But Ginny and I we left early in the morning. I mean, like at sunup, because it was really uncomfortable in that room. And it's supposed to be like a homey room. You know, there's a little kitchen there, and there's a little living room with the fireplace, and there's a big sliding door that overlooks this huge pool, and then across from the pool is the outdoor bar. I mean, it's really kind of nice, you know? But I sat out a lot on the balcony because I just was kind of creeped out about going in, and every time I did go in, I kind of stuck my head in and looked around first. It was really, there is something wrong with that room, for sure. But the bathroom, it was just really embarrassing that nobody could go on their own. Especially, you know, a grown man like Scott. Yeah,
Wow.
Marla, just stand there in front of me. Don't turn around. Just stand there. Yeah, okay, I'll be your doorkeeper. Thank you.
Well, it's an interesting question about why some areas seem to be a little bit more terrifying to be in, like a bathroom, because I think you feel more vulnerable.
I suppose, yeah.
Only one way in and one way out most of the time.
Well, yeah, this time, though, there wasn't. There was, you know, front door and back door or whatever. You could go in from the living room or the bedroom, yeah.
It's more of a private, you feel exposed if you're taking a shower, you know. It's kind of, you know, just a little bit more vulnerable than anywhere else, except the bedroom.
Right.
And somebody has to tell me why, if you're completely covered, you're safe from ghosts, as opposed to having your foot out of the covers.
I know.
Somehow they're going to get you.
He's going to grab your foot, huh?
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
Stick that foot out from the covers and you're,
To this day, I cannot. Because as a child, I saw The Beast with Five Fingers with Peter Lorre. And that crawling hand grabbed somebody by the ankle somewhere during the movie. And I swear to you, I was like little then, all right? Maybe 7 or 8 years old. Until I was an adult and was not sleeping alone anymore, I had the cover over my head every night. My nose was the only thing that stuck out.
Wow.
I was afraid that it was going to come and pull the covers off of me. That is stupid now looking back on it, but it impacted me so badly. But even to this day, I can't sleep with my foot sticking out.
And it's weird because I'm the exact opposite. I have to have my feet out of the covers.
Yeah, sometimes mine gets hot like that and I have to put them out. Yeah. Back when I was younger,
But then, then you risk getting, you know, your ankles grabbed by monsters.
Yes.
I don't think so.
You'll never know until it happens.
If it does, you'll be the first to know.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll appreciate it, and I'll say, told you so. Neener,
You'll hear
neener.
the screams coming out.
All the way from Ohio, huh?
I printed all this stuff out, and there's no way I'm going to even get to half of it. I can see that already. Because it's already break time. So we're already, you might say, a quarter of the way through or something like that. So
Oh, yeah.
I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take us a quick one. Won't be real long. And give Marla a chance to rest her throat a little bit so she can do a whole lot more talking. And
Gee, thanks.
And Barbara, you know, Barbara's full of it tonight. She's got a whole bunch of stuff I can see right
Yeah,
now.
I've been full of it all the time.
So why don't you go ahead and take us out, Barbara?
Well, alrighty, folks. You're listening to the Paranormal View on the Para-X Radio Network with Henry Foister, Jeffrey Gould, who's not here this evening, and myself, Barbara Duncan. And our very special guest tonight is Miss Marla Brooks from Storing the Cauldron. We will be right back after a few messages.
Whether you're listening at home, at work, or anywhere, thanks for making Para-X part of your day. Your source for everything paranormal, Para-X.
And welcome back, everybody, right here to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. I want to thank everybody for being here and listening with us tonight, and those listening from around the world. We appreciate each and every one of you. We have with us tonight Barbara Duncan.
He's still here.
And we have a special guest, Marla Brooks.
Rooted to my chair.
And speaking of those from around the world, where do we have listeners at tonight?
Well, tonight they're coming in from the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and our friends in Israel.
All right. No, we're glad to have the people from Israel come in because it's only been, the last few weeks or month or so that we've seen them dropping by.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. So I hope you are interested in the show tonight with all these stories. Before we get started, again, I wanted to remind everybody that the Paranormal View will be going to Gettysburg April the 13th and 14th. And if you're interested in going, get on Facebook and look up Henry Foister and send me a message, and I'll give you all the information on it. Going to be a great time over there. So we got a couple places we're going to be going to, plus out on the battlefield, and just have a great time. So wanted to remind everybody about that. Tonight, Jeff's not with us, but we have Marla Brooks in, so everything is fine and dandy with all the stories. Everybody seems to be enjoying those, which we have a lot of them. And I have a quick one here. Let's see here. From the 1850s to the late 1880s, Sierra County, California, was crawling with prospectors in search of gold. The northernmost region of California's motherlode, dozens of mining camps with such names as Poverty Hill, Queen City, Port Wine, and Poker Flat, sprouted up as prospectors searched for the glittering rocks in the streams of the area. By the late 1850s, hydraulic mining began in the region, which continued through the 1880s. No doubt during these affluent times, many prospector and mine owner made their fortunes, but they were lost not only, but they were not the only ones. Those storekeepers who catered to the miners' needs also profited. One such man who gained wealth running his retail establishment was named Jerome Pyron. The storekeeper was known to have made frequent trips into the hills behind his store in Poker Flat, where he buried his money. However, when a Mexican gang heard of Pyron's hidden money, they converged upon his shop, demanding to know its location. When Pyron refused to tell them, he was murdered by the gang. To this day, Pyron's buried cash has not been found. There's you a place to go to now. Get rich quick.
You see now, if somebody tells you that they're not going to tell you where they hold the gold, then you don't kill them. You let them go and then follow them forever until they lead you back
they go to it. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah,
you killed the golden goose right there. Wow.
It don't make any sense.
No, none whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Stephen King, let's talk a little bit about Tommyknockers.
Yay! Tommyknockers are fun.
Tommyknockers are great.
Okay, what's Tommyknockers?
Okay, aside from the Stephen King lore, which is not quite that it. When you're talking about mines, Tommyknockers are supposedly the spirits of miners, and they are good and bad. They can help you find ore, gold, etc. And they'll start knocking on the walls of mines right before a cave-in to let you know that there's danger, obviously.
Benevolent as well as malevolent.
Exactly. If they don't like you, you're in deep trouble.
Deep trouble?
Yeah. Well, they can, one guy named Eddie, I guess, was the target of one because he evidently, boasted that they weren't real, etc., whatever. They drove him nuts. They were pelting him with stones. They stole his tools. They blew out the miner's lantern so he couldn't find his way out. It's like, and they, one of them, evidently he owed $5.
Wow. He owed them $5?
He owed them money. Well, obviously he owed it before they died.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And are these all over the place, or just in California, or where?
I think they're pretty much miners' lore everywhere now.
Oh, they're miners' lore.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. They all are in the mines. Tommy knockers.
That's why I don't go in them deep, dark places.
Well, you remember, was it called Haunted Mine?
Oh, the one that was on TV?
Yeah.
That was a ghost mine, wasn't it?
Ghost Mine, there we go.
Oh, that was a good show. I liked that one. I did.
It was very good. And it was really good because you actually got to see miners, and they do have their own superstitions. And those superstitions are there for a reason, too, because, I don't know what the knocking noise is really, whether it's just compressed gas venting out, which would cause a mine collapse.
Sure.
Or if they really are spirits of miners, because deep down that far, you don't know what kind of elemental activity you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
It's true. That's true. And it depends what they're mining for, too. Certain ores are more conducive to certain critters, demons, elementals,
Very true. Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
And we have a lot of different types of ores up here, too, not just gold, but there's emeralds, there's sapphires.
Yeah.
I don't think there's diamonds, but there's coal up here, so it very well could be.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
And who knows? It could be with that much energy trapped in there in the ore itself.
Mm-hmm.
What could possibly be happening?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. You just never know.
Yeah.
All right. I think I've got one that's kind of funny. I think. I didn't read the whole thing, but we'll find out in a minute. It's short.
Okay.
Because it starts out by saying this one might sound completely nuts and more funny than frightening, but the legend has been around a long time. It says, ever since people first started climbing Mount Shasta, there have been reports of little people who act like gremlins and sabotage your climb. They would live in the caves there, which some say are actually portals to the fairy world deep in the mountain. And because of this, some hikers and climbers leave small offerings of food for the tiny race of people as they travel to be sure their journey will not be impeded. Again, this doesn't sound so scary, but if you're a serious climber and you suddenly find yourself looking way down to the ground 100 or 2 feet below, the idea of these little people might sound a touch more sinister.
Oh, yeah. And there are some really interesting caverns down around Mount Shasta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Really wild ones. There's some that you can actually travel down, but it's like 60 feet of stairs. Yeah.
So
Quite amazing.
Have you been wandering around in Mount Shasta?
No, that's way up in Northern California.
Oh.
That's all the way up almost near the Oregon border.
Well, do you have like a 20-mile radius around where you live that you don't go past?
Pretty much. When you don't have a reliable car.
Yeah, well, that makes good sense. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I understand that. So.
But we're talking about Northern, which is probably a good 6-hour drive.
Wow.
Yeah, we're not talking,
You'd have to take 3 or 4 days off just to go up there to be able to hike and research.
To enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah. California is a very tall state. It's not very wide, but it's pretty tall. Because for me to get to Barbara, if we were driving, it would be a good maybe 8 or 9 hours, depending. Well, not with traffic; it'd be half a day. But
about a normal 8-hour, 9-hour drive. That's about as far as it is from here to Gettysburg from me.
Yeah. Well, people think, because most of you guys are East Coast anyway, so everybody thinks, oh, well, Barbara and I live on the same coast. We must get together all the time. We must know the same people. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're a world apart, even though we're in the same state.
Yeah. Wow. And then so you're in L.A., so how far is it if you went south, like down to, say, San Diego?
San Diego's about an hour and a half. Mexico
Really?
is about 2 hours. Yeah.
So you're that close in the south. Wow.
But it's the drive that gets you.
It's the what?
Yeah.
The drive.
Oh, yeah. It's crowded out there. I
It
would
is.
not want to live in a congested place like that.
The suburbs aren't bad, but, you can't stay in the suburbs all the time. You have to get on the freeways, and that's when you get,
In trouble.
whacked in the knees.
Yeah, it doesn't matter when to. Went to Disneyland at one day. Started off in the morning. It took 4 hours to get, because of traffic,
Where were
from
you?
Anaheim to Universal Studios.
Yeah, okay. And that's, that's maybe 50 miles or so. But yeah, I mean, it's a ridiculous amount of time.
4 hours to go
Now
50
that I'm
miles.
out here in Azusa, Hollywood is 30 miles away, 35 miles away, and you think, oh, that's a hop, skip, and a jump. It takes forever, and it takes just as long. This is terrible. It takes just as long to get off the freeway and from the off-ramp into the city as it does coming all the way from here to the off-ramp, because it is bumper to bumper traffic no matter when. It goes past the Hollywood Bowl. It goes past, a couple of landmarks and everything. It goes past Hollywood Boulevard to get there. It's amazing. The first time we went down there, because we had to go to the dentist, Ginny and I both had the same dentist, and that was, in the building that I used to work in Hollywood. She says, we got to leave 2 hours early. I said, no, we don't. It's only 30 miles. It's just Hollywood. She says, trust me, we need to leave early. And Steve, her husband's going, yeah. You can't get there in a hop, skip, and a jump. So I rarely go into Hollywood because of that. I mean, it's crazy, the traffic. And we have Metrolink now that I think we can go into Hollywood. I think they finally put a station here, which is Metrolink. For those who don't know, it's like it's not a bus, it's a train kind of thing.
Oh, it's a train?
Yeah. And it goes right along in some areas. If you're driving the freeway, you just look over to your left and, there's the track, and there's the little thing. I don't know how there are stops right in the middle of the freeway. Now, there must be something underground to let them get out of there. But you drive by, and here's this little, hut. But it's a nice hut. It's a big hut, but it's a hut. And you see people getting on and off the track there. Well, I can't figure out how they get from the street across the freeway to get up there. So I'm going to have to do some exploring.
Well, there's got to be a walkway goes down underneath the freeway.
I suppose.
Unless they got one that goes up over the freeway.
No, it's not over, so it's got to be under.
under.
So, maybe there's Tommy knockers under there.
Oh, that's got to be a long shot going under the freeway, so no telling what's down there.
It's a long way. It is a long way. That's the weird thing. So I don't know. I'm new to this Metrolink stuff. So, one of these days.
Yeah.
No.
We have it up here quite a bit because we have BART and lots of tunnels. And, it sits on the bay floor, which is kind of gnarly, especially.
Underwater.
Underwater, yeah, especially around the earthquake area.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not exactly something you want to see.
No.
I would not want to go underground anywhere where they could have earthquakes and you may not make it back out.
Well,
Or
yeah.
bridges.
Well, all of our stations are, not all of them, but the big ones, like Hollywood has, I think, 1, 2, at least 3, maybe 4 stations. And they're all underground. And, yeah, I mean, I would go just to see, but I haven't yet. Because I'm still, we're hearing the big one is coming, so I'm still waiting for the big one. After the big one, then I might, think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, after the big
up.
one, then there's also a bunch of little tiny shakers.
That's okay. I can do with the tiny ones. It's just the big ones. I don't care. We need to get, so see, LA used to be, or California used to be very Indian, as I mentioned before, Native American. And so what we need is something called the Dark Watchers to tell us when the earthquakes are coming, because I'm not sure exactly where the Santa Lucia Mountains are. Are they up by you, Barb?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, it says the Santa Lucia Mountains were home to the Chumash Indians, and their lore tells us of a creepy phenomenon people still report today called the Dark Watchers. And they have a lot of caves there. So in cave paintings, you can see these dark shapes in the mountains looking down. And throughout history, many people, including John Steinbeck, the famous author, have reported seeing real-life counterparts on the mountains. And some say they have dark hats and capes, shadow people. Others, Slender Man. Others say that they're like ghostly phantoms and they only show up at twilight. So just no matter how the story changes, one thing remains the same. The figures stay still, watching, and then they vanish. And nobody knows why, but they've been here for centuries, so it's unlikely that they're going anywhere soon.
Wow. Okay, the Santa Lucia Mountains are around Monterey, going into San Luis Obispo.
Okay, so Central California.
Yeah, Central California.
Yeah.
Lots of mountainous areas and those redwood trees that are scary as it is.
As scary as it is.
Well, San Simeon is scary.
Yeah. You've never been in a grove of huge trees like that.
I know they're big.
They're gigantic.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen where they had a tunnel hole, made through one of them where the road went through. Mm-hmm. I think since way back when they did that, I think that trees had to been taken down, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. I thought. Yeah. Sad when things like that happen too.
Well, they're very old trees.
Yeah.
Extremely old trees. Mm-hmm. And as we've discovered, science has discovered anyway, they have a network of systems that they can use, and they communicate to each other.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They communicate by moss, and they have some sort of root system and chemical that they release that will actually help trees that are diseased.
Right.
They will actually feed trees that have fallen. It's amazing what a living organism it is, and what a community it is too. So when you get in these really tall redwood groves, you can feel them.
Have you been to
them? Yeah.
No. Good. We was talking about the ghost mines and people going in those and investigating. Pat McCormick, who is with the Ghost Soldiers, they make videos of some of the investigations that he does. And they went into an old coal mine, and I believe it was either in Virginia or Kentucky or somewhere. But they take the miners take him down into this tunnel, way down into the mine. And they do an investigation, and you ought to go to his site, Ghost Soldiers, and look it up. I forget what the name of the mine was that they did, but they have all kinds of very interesting EVPs and stuff that they got from down in the mine. You wouldn't believe it. It's a real good episode. So,
I have no doubt the mining systems, whether they're interconnected. And that other TV show, The Haunted, Haunted Towns.
Oh yeah, The Haunted Towns. Yeah,
which are all connected by mines and tunnels, etc. So, you have no doubt that there's something going on there.
Wow, that's very cool. I think I like ghost towns, sort of. Better than mining towns, but mining towns are kind of neat. But ghost towns have their own charm.
Mm-hmm. Via Bodie.
Yes.
I've seen that one up on the internet.
I got that one too, because Bodie is very cool. So you guys can talk about it. Yeah.
Trying to get there is very difficult.
Yeah.
It takes it's extremely rocky and it's not paved roads, so you'll take out your suspension in your car very easily.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and it's pretty much an intact town left, and you can sort of walk through and take a peek at various houses, and some of the furniture is still there.
Still there, yep, tables and everything, yeah.
Just do not take anything.
I heard,
not even a rock.
I heard the ghost will get you.
Yeah.
I know, that's the part I like the best. Now, what happens if you step on like a stone and it gets impaled in the sole of your shoe? Is that considered taking
I
it?
don't think that's not taking it. It's
Not
reaching
willingly.
down and actively picking up a stone
Okay.
Did that
or whatever. Yeah.
was that a mining
'cause-
town?
Yeah.
There's mining
Yeah.
for what? Gold or silver or
Silver.
silver?
Yeah.
Okay.
At a very active silver mine.
But
And
when it played out, the town went dead.
Well, lots of those things did around here. But the cool thing is that it says that there's a museum office there, and they have letters from people who have returned items in the hopes of lifting the curse.
Right.
That's similar to Hawaii.
I do. That was on one of the shows somewhere where they talked about that, and I forget which show it was on, but I've seen it on a couple different ones. And that's in California?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's north of Yosemite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The only ghost town I know of is the one that's down here on the way to Las Vegas, which is the Calico ghost town, which they've sort of turned into sort of a tourist trap in a way. But there's a cemetery there, and there's the old buildings there. I mean, it stayed empty for years and years and years. And I think it was Walter Knott who created Knott's Berry Farm. And I forget, some other company with some money went in there and kind of fixed it up a little bit. But everything kind of looks the same there. And they said even though it's been rebuilt and kind of in many ways new, that it's still very, very haunted. And that's what I was telling Henry about some years ago, that would be a really cool place.
Now, wasn't there a rivalry between Calist and Bodie as to which one was the more haunted?
Could be. I don't know. I haven't heard that.
As I recall, there was, yeah.
I'm not saying that Bodie is more authentic, but I don't recall what Calico was before. I'll have to look it up. What turned it into a ghost town, what kind of mining or whatever it was that they did there, because it really is out in the Tules. There's still nothing. I mean, it's right smack in the middle of the desert. There's Victorville and stuff, but it's not close to that, and it's way not close to Vegas. It's not even halfway there. But you're out in the middle of nothing. And so what was it? Was it some kind of an outpost or something? Or I suppose there was a mine. But I've never been there, and it really is weird because I've been driven that road to Vegas, 100 times. And every time I've always been with someone who didn't ever want to stop. I swear to you. No matter who I went with, hi, let's go to Calico. I want to go look around. No, come on, let's just get to Vegas. Seriously, it's so frustrating. So, yeah, one of these days, that's on my bucket list. I've still got to get to Calico.
To Calico.
Yeah. Now, getting to Las Vegas from where you are, is that near the little alien, the alien highway?
That is close to Las Vegas. I think it's about 90 minutes out of Vegas. And it's really funny you mention that because you remember Steve Parsons, who's on my show so often. Well, I don't know why we were talking one day, but Steve is fascinated with, Area 51 and all that. And, for a ghost guy, that's, a little strange. But he said, we need to take a road trip. How close are you? And I said, well, it's about 3 or 4 hours to Vegas and another, 90 minutes or whatever. He says, 2019, I'm coming to the States. We're going to take a road trip. So I think we're going to see that there.
Oh, yeah. And stop by the little alien. Yeah.
Well, of course, you must, how rude would that be not to?
For tchotchkes.
Yeah, for tchotchkes. You have to have little tchotchkes. But I'm not. I guess I'm curious about it. I'm not as jumping up and down happy. I mean, I'll be glad. Well, yeah, let's go to Vegas on the way. Let's stop and gamble a little bit. Have whatever, look around. But yeah. So yeah, it's not far. It's still in the middle of the desert. And I from Calico. Nah, I don't think Calico's that much inland. I mean, Calico, because you get off the freeway and then there's a road right there, so you maybe go a mile or two into the desert, but it's not even built up. I mean, it's weird. It's very, very, very primitive yet, the roads there. And the desert, that's what I used to love when I was a kid, driving through the desert, because there was nothing there, except every so often there'd be like an abandoned house or something, or an abandoned cart or wheelbarrow or something. It was really kind of neat. It's more built up now than it was, but still, there's something. I love the desert, and there's so much lore about the desert. I was actually thinking of moving to Palm Springs at one time, but that is so on the fault line, the other fault line that I...
Yeah.
What part of the desert is it you drive across going to Las Vegas?
How what?
What part of the desert do you drive across going to Las Vegas? Is it like Death Valley or something?
You can take a detour to Death Valley. That's there. It's just kind of the Mojave Desert. And, it's a big desert. But it's, you go on certain highways, like the 5 or the 15. You take the 5 or the 15, and then you just take that road all the way down.
Those are kind of like interstates, kind of? Or
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they have stops where you get gas and stuff?
Oh, sure. Halfway to Vegas, there's a town called Barstow, which I believe is also very haunted. And that's where all the buses stop, and that's where anybody that needs a potty break stops in Barstow. Or another place called Needles that supposedly has the world's largest thermometer. So if you do a Google search and look at Needles and look at their thermometer, it's pretty big. But yeah.
Well, Marla, if you want to move to the desert, I still think the Clown Motel is up for sale.
I know it is. And it's right next to the cemetery, too.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you get 2 for 1.
I actually sent that article when I saw that it came up to Scott Michaels, who absolutely hates clowns. Hates them with a passion. Scared to death of them. And I sent him that, and I said, well, do you want to buy it? And if you don't, let's take a road trip. I can't repeat what he wrote back to me.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's that afraid of clowns. But yeah, I don't know why they're
like
selling
you are
it.
of the bathroom, right?
Well, I think they're retiring.
Oh, was that it? Okay. Well, it used to kind of be like a biker hangout too, Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it was creepy. I mean, it was all full of clowns. But I would like to go to the cemetery right next door. I don't think, a lot of the clowns were buried there, but there is a cemetery right there.
There is, and I don't know why they built that so close to a cemetery, or
vice versa.
why there's a hotel. Yeah.
Well, actually, the cemetery probably did come first.
One would think. Yeah.
But maybe the building for the motel was there, and maybe it was used for something else.
Could be.
And it was convenient to have the cemetery there. See, that's the thing. People that live on the East Coast don't think we have anything that's haunted here.
What, in California?
Yeah,
Why would
lots
they
of
think
people.
that?
Well, why would I go to California? What do you got there? We got this and this and this and this, And we have, clown motels and stuff.
And even if it's not haunted, it's creepy.
It is. It is. I mean, the ghost towns are creepy. The desert in it is beautiful, but there are bits of it that are creepy.
If you get online and look at some of the old buildings there, just looking at them makes it look creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great history out here of things. I mean, there are people that want to come out like, okay, well, then we want to go on John Wayne's haunted boat, or we want to see Howard Hughes's haunted airplane, the Spruce Goose, or we want to go to the Queen Mary. But there's so much more that people don't know about.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the exciting part. That's the neat part. When I was doing the Ghosts of Hollywood books, I mean, yeah, I had some things that everybody knew about, but like when I covered the Roosevelt Hotel, I mentioned the Blossom Room but the story basically and the investigation was that room that nobody knew about. And, we went up to lots of places that people had no clue were haunted. And that's, I think, the way to go. You have to go off the beaten path because I think a lot of the places that are so popular are kind of fished out. They're not as active as they were because there's always a flow of people going in there and, spirits for people too. And I think they kind of think, oh, God, another one? Here they come again with those cameras. Oh, look at that Mel meat, and they disappear because they get really tired of it, I think. But these places that haven't been investigated very much, like I don't think Calico has been investigated. I've never heard of anybody going there. It's one of our government parks now, and maybe, they're not allowing people to do it, bring a team in and do it, but that doesn't mean that people can't do independent investigations. But that's the beauty of it. Everything that's a landmark it doesn't matter, in any place in the world, try to find the other places because those are the juicier ones. Those are the things that you feel more at.
Because that's not the oldest or the only old place in the area. And if it's haunted, then a lot of the other places are too.
Well, that's it, yeah. And people don't think that, well, I'm going to go to the Queen Mary. Well, okay, go, it's fine. But the Queen Mary is lovely because it is the Queen Mary. It's a beautiful ship. I mean, you walk in there and it's like you're just...
Hello.
Yeah, really.
That's not
it's like you're just walking into the 1940s. Or 30s or 20s, whatever. I mean, it's a whole... 30s, I keep going back and back. But it is. It's like walking into a dream because it is that different and it is that wonderful.
And you can also, can't you rent rooms and spend the night there?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's Queen Mary Hotel there.
Yeah.
And so you can, wander around. But to just go there for the ghosts, I mean, I don't think, a friend of mine was a docent over there. And, there were things that happened, but it just kind of got boring after a while. People stopped going there because they'd heard about it so much. It's so much nicer to find a place that you can kind of, rub your hands together and say, yeah, this is where I want to go.
And usually the more popular it is, the more expensive it's going to be.
Well, that too.
And you can find some spaces that are just gorgeous and don't cost a thing to walk through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we've got them. We've got them up north. We've got them down here in Central California as well. I mean, we're loaded with good stuff, but it just seems that nobody ever comes out here. Bruce Tango was joking the other day, and he says, Mar, it's on my bucket list. It's on my bucket list. I got to come to California. I go, yeah. Talk is cheap. Talk is cheap, Bruce. No. I really want to come. All right, well, because I was telling him about the house here one day, and he's, oh, God, did you do EVPs? He gets all excited. Did you do EVPs? Have you done that? I said, yeah, no, Bruce. I said, because it bothers me when I'm here alone. When nobody else is here, I don't like to go in the house because too many things happen in there. So I said, no, Bruce, I'm not going to walk in there and sit there by myself, half scared to death just for being there, because I said, I walked in there with my dog one time, and the minute we walked through the door, she started to snarl, and her hackles went up, and nobody was home. And so I said, yeah, I don't go in there by myself. Well, I want to come there. I said, well, get on a plane, okay? He says, can we go see John Wayne's boat then, too? Because he's a big fan of John Wayne. I said, yeah, we can do that. So, yeah, but, I mean, it's just, I don't know, there's just so many interesting things here. We have a lot of, old history and things.
Well, now, Bruce and Dave Tango and Steve Gonzalez is going to be at the Octagon House.
Yes, they are.
In the next, sometime in the next 4 or 5 months, something like that, 3 or 4 months. Mm-hmm. And I think I might get tickets for the Friday night and go down there and spend it with them. So. Oh,
you should. You should go to the Eventbrite
page.
Website.
Yeah, that's where it's at. Yeah, I can get a ticket for Friday night and go down and spend it with them. Yeah.
Yeah, you should. I mean, Bruce is fun. Bruce is a good guy, and
well, I've seen Bruce quite a few times, like Hillview Manor and a couple of other places that he's been at, and same with Steve. So.
Yeah. But nobody comes out west. Barbara and I are just,
Out
we're
there by
minding our own
yourself,
business
waiting.
here,
You
and
guys aren't.
nobody comes to see us.
You aren't
There
asking
just
the right
aren't
way.
those types of paranormal events out
No,
here.
we don't. We don't have the events. That's true. We don't have the cons. Well, all right. What's his name? Doug Carnahan.
Hmm.
He goes up there around Virginia City and stuff like that, and because he's Northern California ghost people.
Yes, he is.
So he does have events, but that's like one.
Right.
Although Doug is a wonderful ghosty guy, and a good survivor of a bad haunting too. But we don't have that. We have, well, let's go to the Queen Mary. They have something there. No, let's not. They just, I don't know why. Maybe people think it's too far, but I mean, anybody that's interested think it's too far to come out to California, but we have people interested here too. They just don't do much.
Yeah, well, it's trying to get there, and the parking, and the California is a little bit more expensive than other places, but
True.
Perhaps.
True.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
With things like that.
But we got stuff.
we got
We got
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, we got stuff. Mm-hmm.
Pretty amazing things, and some of it's just weird. It has nothing to do with the paranormal, but it's still actually very fascinating.
Yeah, like Route 66. People are always talking about Route 66. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on there. And one of the things, now, I live really close to Route 66. I didn't know it ran through Azusa.
Really?
Ever. Didn't know that, but it does.
Huh.
And but there's talk about the Colorado Street Bridge, which is in Pasadena, and they called it the Suicide Bridge. And that's supposed to be very, very creepy. It's been around since like 1912. And the first time someone jumped from it to commit suicide was in 1919. And since then, there have been like hundreds of suicides off that bridge. And the bridge still stands. And they say with suicide comes ghosts. And even, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Nick Redfern wrote a book about strange places all over the country, and I think he covered the Suicide Bridge, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. Oh, and by the way, he's coming on my show in a few weeks to talk about the Slender Man. He wrote a book on the Slender Man.
Yeah, that's a new book just come out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, this bridge, it's they say it's very, very haunted, and it looked really old-fashioned, but I think they've kind of put mesh in it and stuff to kind of keep people from hopping off. I don't remember exactly how many people have killed themselves on that bridge, but that's like a hop, skip, and a jump from here too. But it's not along Route 66 per se, and they're saying, well, if you're following Route 66 anywhere, take a detour, because Route 66, like here, from here, it ends at Santa Monica Beach. That's the end of it. So, yeah.
And then there's Highway 5.
Yes.
Oh,
which has a stretch of highway, at least, that people really get feelings of dread when they're driving down it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a couple of miles, I think. And they do see apparitions.
That is so strange. I hate that, because when I used to come to visit Ginny and Steve when I was living in Hollywood, there was a stretch of road just like that. And it wasn't when I was on the way there, but every time I was on the way back, I almost had a panic attack at this certain area.
really?
And I couldn't find any reason for it. I mean, I looked up, I think it was on the 210. I'm not sure. I'll have to check. But I didn't come to visit them very often because of that very road. I mean, I'd be a wreck by the time I got home. And it was just like a couple of miles. All of a sudden, everything's fine, and boom, it's like somebody lowered a curtain over you, or the clouds started raining on your head or something.
Would that be an area maybe that went through where some Indian land was, where they might have put a curse on it?
Well, that's possible. It's very hilly in that area. I mean, there's cities on either side, but there's hills first. So, right now it's like you're not seeing city when you're going through there necessarily.
Right.
I mean, you see it ahead, but not on either side. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what it was, but for years I felt that way about that particular spot.
Now, Marla, 66 is the road that James Dean died on, correct?
I think so.
Going towards Las Vegas?
I think that's where he was
I
headed.
believe, yeah.
It's
the
a
same
little
road
town.
Yeah.
I think it may be past that. Because I know Kenny Kingston told me one time about, because he followed the route. One year, he took a road trip and followed to where he died. I think he died somewhere. I don't know if it's Salinas or something like that is where the crash happened. But
it was outside.
The same road that
town.
Sammy Kennison was on.
Yes, yeah, and that's a creepy story. That poor guy.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody doesn't know, Sam Keniston was a comedian who was a little off color and a little loud and a little quirky, but he had a really bad accident on that road. And I don't remember the whole story and how many cars were involved, but what I do remember is that after the crash, somebody ran to see if there were survivors or whatever, and they ran to him and he got out of the car. And the person said, "How are you feeling? Are you okay?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm just fine. I feel fine." And then he dropped dead.
Really?
Yeah, I think what happened, with a lot of people, your adrenaline will kick in.
Right.
And you won't realize that you're mortally wounded or injured. And yeah, I mean, he was walking right around the car and he seemed a little disoriented, but not really bad. And when the person, addressed him and said, "You okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine." Boom, done. That's the creepy part of the story.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got a lot of that here.
And Kat, I don't know if there are any ley lines near there. I should probably look it up because that would probably
add a lot to it also.
It might have helped. Yeah.
You know what? Maybe not ley lines, but fault lines. And who knows if those aren't really ley lines of a sort.
Well, that's true. Yeah. I mean, San Andreas, and then, there's San Andreas, but people think that's the only fault we have. But we've got all these offshoots. We've got little faults. We've got other faults. I think the Palm Springs fault is not San Andreas, but boy, when they shake bad because they're right on top of that whatever fault it is. Yeah, we're just faulted to a fault. It's bad.
Now, speaking of like visiting California, there is tons and tons of hotels and creepy places, besides the Clown Motel. I printed off a whole bunch of them from the different cities, and I'm not sure where some of these cities are. Let's see here. Do you know where Dorrington is? Have you heard of Dorrington?
That's a city?
Apparently.
Not that I've heard of, no.
Well, the area is, they got the Dorrington Hotel. They got the Glass Beach Inn, the Gray Whale Inn, and Lodge at Nio River.
Never heard of
any
that.
of those.
No.
How about Fremont?
Fremont's up by
Oh, yeah. That's up by me.
Barbara. Yeah.
Okay, they got the Lord Bradley's Bed and Breakfast Inn. The charming Victorian bed and breakfast is located in the heart of historic Mission, San Jose, California. Heavy footsteps and strange noises have been heard here during the night, and the apparitions of other era figures have been seen wearing Victorian-style clothing. So you might want
That
to
would make
stay.
sense. It's close to the Winchester Mystery House.
There you
Oh,
go.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. How about...
You have to understand that cities here pretty much are contiguous. So from Richmond all the way down to San Jose is pretty much all city. It's just how you divide it out.
Yeah. Out of one city limits back into another.
Back into another one, exactly. So Fremont is next to San Jose, and it would be very close to it.
So have you heard of the Chateau Marmont?
Oh, that's
Marmont.
right. That's my neighborhood. Yeah.
Okay.
It's on the Sunset Strip.
It says, built in 1929, this hotel has played host to numerous celebrities over the years, including John Lennon, Clark Gable, Marilyn Monroe, Jean Harlow, Dustin Hoffman, Greta Garbo, and dozens of others who are looking for a little privacy. The majestic castle-like hotel rises above the Sunset Strip, is also a place of many tales, some good and some not so good. Hollywood stars have come to the hotel to have affairs by the dozens. This is where John Belushi died from an overdose, and dozens of showbiz deals have been made and broken. It is also said to be haunted by a number of ghostly spirits. One has even known to climb into guests' beds. However, you should know that the Marymount continues to protect its guests' privacy, and if you don't rent one of its very pricey rooms, you won't be allowed to wander around here.
Yeah, there. I had to meet somebody there at one point. It was the first time and the only time I've ever been in there. But you kind of get the feeling that they don't cater to people generally off the street.
Yeah.
That's a nice way of putting it, huh? But it is very famous, and it is a beautiful building. It really is. It's a very old building, very beautiful building.
Still in
Now,
good
Marla,
shape?
are you aware of the Garden of Allah?
Yes, and it just annoys me no end. Yeah, because the Garden of Allah was a hotel, and people lived there. A lot of stars lived there for years and years, and it was built by, I can never say her name, not Navratilova, but something, a very famous actress at the time. Anyway, and F. Scott Fitzgerald stayed there. I mean, everybody stayed there when they came to California because it was like this compound of rooms, and then they had big lawns, and, it was like really nice. But see, Hollywood has this bad habit of not revering its history. That song about they save paradise, put up a parking lot kind of thing. Yeah. That's what happens here. And the Gardens of Allah is now a bank building and a whole bunch of office complexes. It was a big property. And, I mean, that was there for so long. And all that's there now to remember that is a plaque that most people can't even see. This here lies the remains of, whatever. Mm-hmm. They did that also to when I worked in Hollywood for, 100 years. I was in a high-rise building that was built on the spot where this place was called the Music Box Theater. It was a live theater where people put on plays and shows and everything. And across the street, there were these apartments that were there for years and years and years, kind of like garden apartments. And I think that was part of the name. Mm-hmm. And I remember the first couple of years that I was working there, because we were up on the 8th floor and we had a good look down and everything. It was kind of fun to watch. But all of a sudden they started tearing that down too. And then they tore down the Brown Derby. And then they tore down this and that. I mean, everything. There's hardly anything left that had any significance. Where the Hollywood and Highland thing is where they do the Academy Awards and, right next to the Chinese Theater and everything. Used to stand Hotel Hollywood, which was in the early teens and 20s. It was the place that every celebrity went to. And I don't remember seeing it when I was a kid. I think they tore it down, or maybe it was too small to remember, but they put up this huge high-rise bank building there on the corner. And it's like, that was Hollywood history. And why do they tear that down? Why do they tear down the same with Gardens of Allah and everything? And now that part of Hollywood Boulevard is not only the Kodak Theater, or whatever they want to call it now, they keep changing the name, and the Chinese Theater, but it's this huge, very beautiful shopping center. But it's so touristy, you can't even drive down the boulevard anymore. Wow. It's bumper to bumper.
Oh.
It is, because you would think Hollywood wants to maintain their history. Okay, we have the Walk of Fame. Yeah, okay, that's fine. But that's not something that's old. I mean, that's, maybe 40, 50 years old is all. What about all the buildings? There are plenty of buildings on Hollywood Boulevard, actually, that are the original buildings from the 20s. And they haven't changed those, but mostly a lot of it is storefronts on the bottom and then, like offices or something on top. So, I mean, Hollywood Boulevard still has, from a certain area, from like Highland to Vine Street, the buildings are old, which is kind of cool. But then you hit Hollywood and Vine, and they've torn down everything and put in like a resort kind of thing across the street from the Pantages Theater. I mean, it's sad that it's changed so much.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
Because you can imagine what kind of stories the Garden of Allah could tell.
Yeah.
If you were allowed to go through there and investigate even.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Has there been any reports of any like paranormal activity taking place in any of those new buildings that's been built?
No, I don't think
Because
so. I've not heard of any. If so, they sweep it under the rug. It's not.
Yeah.
It's just not important. History is not important, and I believe that spirits and hauntings and everything are historical. And that's why in my books I always kind of put a historical note about the place and when it was, built and blah, 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 because I think that's important to know. You have to know what was there before you understand why it might be haunted now. But I think, I really don't think that there's anything where the bank is or anything else written about anything about the Garden of Allah, and most people have never heard of it.
True.
Wow.
Yeah.
The stories are amazing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of old Hollywood. I mean, there is to a certain degree, but you can't get at any of it. Certainly the houses. Is it called the Witch House?
Oh, the Witch's House in Beverly Hills. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very cool. But that was actually a movie set that they moved to Beverly Hills because it does look like a witch's house. I don't think there's any hauntings attached to it. I think it's just that it's really, really a beautiful house. I mean, it's got, it looks crooked, and I mean, you expect, Hansel and Gretel's witch to come marching out of it. But I'm not sure that there's been anything haunted about it because, as I said, it was built as a prop or, on a movie set.
A set, yeah.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, some of the houses that, are sets that were supposed to be haunted aren't. And it's made the people who live there, a nightmare. The house for American Horror Story.
Yeah. Yep, that's...
which, people are just... climbing the fences to get into.
Right, and private houses, where Jean Harlow's husband killed himself in Benedict Canyon.
Mayfair?
No. But Benedict Canyon is full of all these haunted houses, truly, and but there are real people that live there, and they don't care, they don't notice, it doesn't bother them, for whatever reason. But tour buses are going by there all the time. Their addresses are printed in every ghosty book in the world, and people come knocking at their doors. Most of them have to have, fences or whatever around there because the ones that are allowed to, people will be friendly with, they'll tell you, in the books and stuff. Well, if you want to see this house, you can. It's open from blah, 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 or they'll take you around, or these people don't mind. But most of the time they say, please don't bother the tenants. But you can't help it. It's like, ooh, yeah. Well, even where the Simpson, Nicole Simpson died, the O.J. Simpson thing. I mean, first of all, I would never live there, ever.
No.
Because that was like really a horrible, horrible thing. But, there are people that live there now. And it doesn't seem to bother them. And well, more power to them. But there's constantly traffic as you drive by that are, slowing down or pointing or looking. I mean, you don't have a great deal of privacy in these houses.
Well, they changed the landscape of that a little bit too, though, didn't they?
A little bit, but not, I mean, it was a condo. So, I mean, there's this long walkway to get there. I mean, it's not like a house on the street. It was part of a condo complex. So, and a lot of them do what they can to kind of make things, but, who wants to live behind barricades?
Right. I wouldn't.
I mean, the guy that bought the Manson property tore down the original house and built a mansion on there And it's a beautiful hill, knoll, or whatever you want to call it. It's really nice up in the hills there. Again, I would never live on that property because just even walking anywhere near it, it's at the end of a cul-de-sac is how you get there. And this guy, David Ullman, owns the house that he says that the Manson victims haunt. And I've been up to David's house, but I took a walk because it's just a few steps away from David's. There's like 2 houses between David and this guy who put up this huge fence. You can't look through it. You can't see it. I mean, it's like being in jail.
Right.
I mean, he doesn't want to be bothered. Well, if you didn't want to be bothered, why did you buy that property? Why did you, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think he got a good price on it because, that property was worth a lot of money to somebody who was willing to pay the price.
Right.
And I think this guy is Middle Eastern and probably did have a lot of money because the house that he built on it, if you do a Google search, it's kind of an amazingly beautiful house. Or if you have, Google Earth or something, you can look down on it. But he had to build a fortress to get out. And, when I was walking over there from Omen's house, I just thought, I'm going to just go over. I know I can't see anything, but I just want to see. Because Scott Michaels had taken me there before the house was torn down a long time ago. It was really creepy. We walked onto the property, and it was vacant. And it felt really horrible. But, he said, well, come on, let's go. All right, fine. But this time, I didn't notice at that point, I didn't notice anything until we got near the house. But this time when I left David Omen's house and kind of took a little walk, like I said, it's only 2 houses down. The closer I got, the heavier the air felt. I mean, it was really oppressive.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it didn't feel that bad at that spot because that's kind of where we parked when I was with Scott. Didn't feel that bad. But I wonder, maybe whoever the victims were didn't like the idea that their house was torn down or, I don't know why it feels so bad. Maybe they don't like the new tenant. Who knows? But it was just, I got so bad I just kind of didn't get even to the fence. I didn't even want to touch the fence. I just kind of like, okay, here I am. I'm turning around now, going back.
And there's a lot of people buy houses for that very same reason and end up regretting it. I don't know who owns Marilyn Monroe's house now, the bungalow.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's the same way. Yeah.
Well, I think it's funny how people don't realize or don't care because if they don't believe in ghosts, if they don't believe in the paranormal, to them it's just another house. And sometimes they don't notice it. They don't pay attention. They don't feel it because they're not open to it. And so they may think it's a whole bunch of baloney and get on with their lives. But some people cash in on it too. I mean, Ozzie and Harriet's house, going way, way back.
Oh, yeah.
They said that Ozzie haunted that house after he died, after Harriet moved when she got older. It's up in the Hollywood Hills, not far above Hollywood Boulevard. And I've been by there 100 times. You can see it from the street. But, they said Ozzie was kind of lecherous and these people moved in and they moved out because they said he was jumping in bed with them. They were sure it was him and, fondling and all that stuff. So they moved out, but they didn't make a big deal about it. But then I guess they turned the house into some office. Maybe it was zoned for, business as well. And those people ate it up for a while. Well, this is a house and this is haunted and, and they were happy to have people come in and do investigations and things.
Can you imagine what Errol Flynn's house would be like?
That was torn down, but people say that, because that's in Benedict Canyon also, and people say that when you're up in the hills, the people that live above there and stuff, they can still hear the wild parties he had.
Really?
They can still hear parties going on.
Wow.
Yeah,
I believe it.
Ricky Nelson bought that house.
Party?
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He did.
Yeah. And so there's double whammy on that house now.
Party after you did, man. Carry on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have a lot of, where the Black Dahlia died, where she was cut in half.
Yeah.
The Dennis house or whatever it is.
Yeah. They built it's a beautiful neighborhood now there. It's kind of a dicey area of town, but they made it really, really nice. And there's a fire hydrant that kind of marks a spot where they found her body, or both parts of it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and most people don't know anything about it. They don't remember the history. They don't go back that far. So, this is just a nice neighborhood.
What about that?
And it's odd she's buried up here.
See? Yeah.
What about that ranch outside?
The Manson Ranch?
The one where Manson was at. Yeah.
Spawn Ranch.
Ranch, yeah. Is it still there?
It is. It used to, in bits and pieces, I guess it used to be a movie set.
Right. It was a movie set. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it's still there because I keep bringing up Scott, but we were talking Hollywood history. He's the genius here. But there was a picture he posted on his website at one point of sitting there. There's like a little cave where the Mansons kind of hid from people.
Right.
And Scott was sitting in the cave. So I think the Spawn Ranch is still there. And they found not a whole lot, but they found some bodies buried.
Yeah,
I was going to say, didn't they? They started digging again.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did, and they came up with it.
He was supposed to have killed quite a few people there on the ranch.
They found one body for sure, because one of the Manson family did some plea bargaining and said, "I'll take you to where this guy was." And I'm not sure if it was Shorty Shea or which one, but they did dig up those remains, and there's probably a lot more because
Wow.
the Manson clan did a whole lot of damage for sure.
Well, our time has just flown by, and if you are in California, or if you just want some more history about some of the treasure tales of California, you can go to the website. Just look it up, Treasure Tales of California Legends of America, and they have like bandit hordes in California, desert steamers in Owens Valley, Honey Valley Treasure, lost Chinese cash in Volcanoville, lost mines of California, lost treasures of North Carolina, Milton Sharp's buried loot, Outlaw Roy Gardner's loot, Rattlesnake Dick's stolen loot, Ruggles Brothers loot in Middle Creek. So they got all those now. That I read the story about Outlaw Roy Gardner's loot. You should read that one. I mean, this guy robbed a train, and he was caught within 2 days. It took him to prison. He said, "I'll never stay." Before he even got there, he broke loose and got away. 3 days later, he robbed another train, and 2 or 3 days later, he was caught again. They was taking him, and he'd go into prison, it'd get him there, and he wouldn't be there for very long, a month or two, and he'd escape again. So it's an interesting story. The thing about it is, all this money that he was stealing, over $250,000, he was burying it as he stole it because he was caught within 2 days, and so he never got to spend any of it, and he ended up getting killed. So nobody knows where all this hidden money is at. They have theories, but nobody knows.
Nice.
Good little story, though. I want to thank you, Marla, for taking the time to be with us tonight.
Well, thank you for asking. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you guys.
Well, it is with you, too. And all the people that's been listening tonight, those in the chat room and those around the world, we appreciate each and every one of you. So, Marla, you got something you want to give out about your show, when, and all that good stuff?
Well, yeah, I can. Thursday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern. And we've got a special show coming up on March 29th. It's going to be a 2-hour show instead of a regular 1-hour show. We've got Barry Fitzgerald from Ireland and his friend Stephen Mera. And they're going to be talking about the Nazca mummies, which are those mummies with the huge heads and 3 long fingers and 3 long toes, and really kind of interesting. So we're taking the 2 hours to talk about the mummies. So
I've never heard of those.
Look, yeah, it'll be. Yeah, I sent the stuff to Barbara.
Yep.
And she knows the Nazca mummies.
And the Nazca lines. Yeah.
I know the Nazca lines, but I've never heard of the Nazca mummies, so that's new to me. So
it's fascinating.
Ought to
it's going to be a
interesting.
good show.
And what day is that one on?
March 29th, and
March
we'll be
29th.
starting at 8 o'clock Eastern rather than 9.
Yeah,
So it's
March
from 8 to
29th.
10.
March 29th is Patsy's birthday, so.
Oh, well, we got a podcast there. You can hear it at some point. You're going to have to take her out. You know that.
Yeah, I know I have to take her out.
Yes.
She deserves
you
to
should.
go out every now and then.
Yes, you should. But it's going to be a good show. And like I said, I got Nick Redford coming on talking about Slender Man. I've got a whole lot of people lined up that are interesting and different and hopefully fun.
I'm
in
just
some
now
cases.
working on building mine back up. I've been slack for a while.
We'll get you there.
I'm working on it though. I got talking to a lot of people. I just haven't got none of them inked in, you might say. So we've had Redford on quite a few times, so he likes coming on with us also. So
Yep, he's
give
a
it
good guy.
a month after you've had him, and we'll get him on talking about that stuff.
Yep. Yeah, he's so prolific. He's got so many books that,
Oh yeah.
you know, we could have him on for years and still not cover them all.
Still not
He's
get 'em.
really good. But the Slender Man I saw that when I went, woohoo, yes, I want to talk about that.
All
I
right
like-
then. Well, Barbara, how about you? You got stuff?
I got stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the-
You can find all our stuff on the Paranormal View website. Just click on the links, follow our personal Facebook pages, Twitter pages, etc.
Right.
Yeah,
And Barbara's got a show too.
I have several.
You got several. Which ones else do you
On
have?
the Paranormal View.
But you're on with somebody else too, quite often.
I'm on through Blue Topaz on Monday nights with Rebecca and Eric
Right?
for much frivolity and jocularity.
Like this one.
And then I drag her on mine if I can't have a guest. And I threw a book at her today that I just got in the mail that's right up her alley. So I cleverly suggested that she's going to co-host with me on that night too.
Professional co-host.
Well, when you know the stuff and I don't, hey, go to the source.
Go to the source.
It shall be fun.
All right. Well, again, it is time for us to say goodbye. We will see you next week at the same time. So this is Henry Foister.
And Barbara Duncan.
And me.
And me. We will see you guys next week at the same time. So good night, everybody. You've been listening to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. Join us again next week at the same time for more of the Paranormal View.